I'm Lina, and our topic is ESG reporting. First of all, an overview. The topic of ESG reporting is becoming increasingly relevant in today's corporate landscape. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, the three pillars of sustainable business practice. ESG reporting refers to the structured collection, evaluation, and disclosure of companies' performance in these areas. The goal is to create transparency for investors, customers, employers, and regulatory bodies. In ESG reporting, companies must first collect relevant sustainability metrics. These data are then structured according to recognized standards and published regularly in a sustainability report. It's essential that the information is verifiable, comparable, and transparent. ESG reporting is important for investment decisions, stakeholder expectations, regulation, risk management, and long-term value creation. A key component of ESG reporting is providing a structured summary of the most important EU regulation in the respective legal area. This includes in particular the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, as well as the EU Taxonomy Regulation. The CSRD entered into force in January 2023 as a successor to the Non-Financial Reporting Directive. Its main goal is to improve the quality, comparability, and reliability of sustainability data disclosed by companies. Key changes introduced by the CSRD include broader scope. The reporting obligation will now apply not only to large listed companies, but also to non-large listed companies and certain SMEs. Then, digital reporting standards. Companies must disclose their sustainability performance in line with the new EU sustainability reporting standards. And mandatory external assurance, ESG reports must be independently audited. And digital reporting format, reports must be machine readable and published in a central European access point. The relevance for companies. The CSRD brings significantly higher demands on transparency, data management, and strategic sustainability integration. It becomes a core part of corporate management and decision-making. Now the EU Taxonomy Regulation. The EU Taxonomy is another central component of the European Green Deal. It defines which economic activities are considered environmentally sustainable, based on 6 environmental objects. The primary goal of the EU taxonomy is to reorientate capital to more environmental sustainable economic activities. The relevance for companies. The taxonomy guides sustainable investments and influences access to capital. Companies that do not align with ESG criteria may face challenges in obtaining financial or attracting investors in the future.
I'm Sarah. Today I want to talk about a greenwashing case involving the assessment management company of Deutsche Bank. In 2021, a former complier said that was not honest about how it used ESG in ESG stands for Environmental, Social and Governance. These are rules for making more responsible and sustainable investments. The company said that was many of its found following ESG standards, but internal documents showed that ESG was not really used in a regular or clear way. So the public message and the real actions did not match. Because of this, regulation starts investigates. These were the ESG in the United States and BaFin in Germany. They want to find out if gave false or misleading information to investors. The simulation is a clearly example of greenwashing. That means a company tries to look more sustainable than it really is. This is a big problem, especially for investors who want to support companies that really care about the environmental and society.
My name is Helena. Recently, DWS faced investigation from both the SEC and the BaFin because of issues with their ESG reporting. As a result, the CEO resigned and the company reputation took a Noch lauter. Noch lauter. Hatte schon, ja. Wo war ich jetzt? Okay. This case showed clearly that stronger ESG rules and better oversight are really needed to stop greenwashing. For companies, it's now very clear. Overstating ESG efforts can cause serious legal and emergent problems. More and more businesses are asking for independent ESG audits to be sure their reporting is accurate. Many are also working to improve their internal ESG processes. And with the new CSRD rules coming soon in Europe, companies will have to get their ESG reports officially verified.
Hi everybody, my name is Eni Shehu, and after the legal framework and the DWS case, now we are going to give some strategic recommendation for Chouette. So, let's suppose that Chouette is accused of exaggerating its sustainability claims related to its innovative 3D printing eyewear. Our goal now is to provide 3 actions that Chouette can take, categorized as high risk, neutral risk, and the best solution. I will talk about the high risk, while my colleagues will talk about the other 2. Since today there are some economics and finance students, I will try to give some economic interpretation. So, what is the high risk action that Chouette can take? Simply put, it is ignoring the problem. The high risk action involves management deciding to dismiss or ignore the allegations entirely and continue to use slogans like zero waste 3D printing or fully circular manufacturing. This is not a really good idea, and now we'll talk about the consequences. This kind of behavior attracts regulatory scrutiny. As we saw in the DWS case, it got investigated, and obviously the same thing will happen to Chouette if it ignores the allegations. It will be investigated probably from the consumer protection authorities, and as a consequence, it will get fined, which are the legal penalties. It will have to pay legal penalties, but also some legal fees. And this obviously for the company represent costs that are going to corrode the bottom line. But the most important 2, at least from my point of view, are the next ones, the severe reputational harm and the investor flight. A lot of consumers nowadays are eco-conscious, which means that they are willing to support companies that try to be more responsible from an environmental and a social point of view. And for Chouette, this represents a loss in most of its customers and consequently a loss in future revenues. The next one is the investor flight. So, if Chouette is not transparent with its data, investors will consider the company as a riskier one. And since it doesn't try to defend itself, its ESG scores will go down, and a lot of investors really do care about the ESG scores. This means that a lot of investors will try to divest from the company. Another thing is that companies with great ESG reputation usually get access to green bonds. I will not talk about green bonds because there will be a presentation about them, but they basically are debt with a lower interest rate for these companies that are ESG friendly. In our case, if Chouette tries to ignore the problem, it will not have access to these kind of loans, and thus will have to pay a higher interest rate on its debt. And since it is considered a high-risk company, the interest rate will be pretty high. So, from an economic point of view, the revenues are going down because we don't have more customers, but at the same time, the costs are going up because we have to pay legal fees and legal penalties, and the interest rate on our debt will be higher. And for those of you that have never done business valuation, in business valuation there are 2 important things. Future cash flows, which in our case will go down because our revenue are going down and the costs are going up, and the discount rate. In our case, the discount rate for the cash flows will be higher. This is because we pay a higher interest rate on the debt and the company is seen as a riskier one. This means that Chouette will be worth less than it was worth before. And obviously this goes against what we try to do in corporate finance, which is create shareholder value. In this case, we are destroying shareholder value. Another thing is that companies, before taking action in the real world, they try to do some simulations using complex model to see what the outcome of their action might be. Obviously, the simulation are going, it's pretty obvious what it's going to tell us. There will be a high probability of negative events. With negative events, we mean brand reputation is going to go down, revenue will go down, there will be fines and a potential crisis. This is the high risk option and why Chouette should not take this option. And now Sarah is going to talk about the neutral option.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and now I'm going to talk about the neutral option. This strategy can be seen as a compromise. On one end, the company internally acknowledges that there might be a problem, so it doesn't ignore the problem completely. But on the other hand, the company chooses to not be fully transparent with the public and it avoids making big or immediate changes. In fact, this is a caution approach where the company reacts to problems as they come up, rather than actively working to prevent them, to solve them from the beginning. So, what kind of action would Chouette actually take with this neutral option? First of all, the company would likely update their marketing materials by using a more general or vague language. So instead of making bold or specific claims about their activities, they might switch to phrases like eco-conscious or striving for sustainability and so on. The main goal is to soften their messaging. And this not only reduces the risk of criticism, but it also avoids taking responsibility or having to change their position in the future, because the company doesn't make any clear promises. So even if in the future they do something differently, it's hard to challenge them anyway. Second, the company would probably stick for internal review only. This means that their own teams will assess the reviews process and check for the validity of their claims without using independent third-party editors. By doing this, they keep full control over the review process, but they miss out on the possibility of the added trust and credibility that an external check gives. Finally, external verification of their ESG claims and substantial adjustment to their practice would be likely delayed. In fact, they might talk about making improvements inside the company, but these changes usually takes time, and outside support and recognition comes later, much later. Despite this option may see a way to manage things quietly, it comes with several downsides. First of all, it doesn't solve the underlying problem. In fact, if there is a real gap between what the company says and what the company actually does, simply changing the wording or doing internal review doesn't solve the core problem. Next, it can lead to ongoing suspicions. In fact, without fully transparency and external check, people like regulators or consumers, investors may keep questioning the company. Another risk is that the company can end up having an unclear reputation. In fact, without a real action plan, their ESG commitments could be inconsistent. So it makes hard for the company to create a credible and positive image as a truly sustainable company. There is also the risk of falling behind the regulation, since ESG rules are becoming stricter. And just think about the CSRD directive that requires company to improve their sustainability reporting. And if they keep delaying, they could fail to meet future and current legal requirements. Finally, there is the risk of escalation, where if the company doesn't solve the main problems or there are new informations, the initial concern could become a bigger crisis in terms of reputation, related to their reputation, and even legally matters. So to conclude, looking at our simulation, this choice would be probably negative, have a negative effect on the company, since it leads to penalties, a decline in the brand reputation, and also missing out on the opportunity of differentiating itself, especially compared to the other companies that are more transparent in their ESG efforts. Even if this option is easier at first, it could become, it could damage the company in the long run. Now, Gabe present the best solution action.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, my name is Gabriel Batras. I'll be presenting what we think the best solution is. So again, in our example, Cheu is faced with reasonable accusations that they are misrepresenting their ESG. And these are the best solutions that we found for response. And it primarily centers around proactive action and also, substantial activities to create this to be an opportunity, excuse me. So the first thing you want to do is halt and acknowledge. You're going to want to immediately pause any marketing claims that are under scrutiny. So anything that's like not immediately verifiable on your end. Then you want to publicly acknowledge the concerns that the community may have and announce that you are going to be doing a committed, thorough, transparent review. The next, you're going to want to commission an independent audit. You're not going to want to choose anyone. You're going to want to engage in highly credible companies that are known, and they are going to dive deep into your business practices and find out, your material sourcing, your methodologies, energy, waste, the end of life concerns, packaging, things of these nature. They're also going to take a look at your social practices within the company and your labor regulations. Next, you're going to want to implement robust governance in the company, and this will establish clear internal systems That way you can maintain the changes for a long-term solution. And you'll also be able to collect ESG data. And in all this, you're going to want to deliver full transparency by publishing the audit, the good and the bad, and communicate clear action plans that have timelines for addressing any gaps that are identified by the auditor. And so why are these opportunities the best? So it'll not only deal with the claims of greenwashing, but it will position itself as a leader in ESG and sustainability and development goals. So the key benefits are going to be mitigating the risks by proactively engaging in solutions-oriented activities. You're going to reduce the risk of penalties. You're going to make the commissions and bodies investigating you, maybe see you as being wholeheartedly engaging with solutions and fixing issues. Next, you're going to build unshakable trust. As Annie said, customers and investors are increasingly interested in sustainability, and that's where they want to spend their money or invest their money. So you're going to gain their trust by taking these actions. Again, enhancing brand reputation. Again, that's for your customers. Also, employees are very important. The employees want to work for an honest and a leader in ESG. Attracting ESG investment, and as I said before, implementing like these solutions early and deeply within the culture of the company will ensure that there's future compliance, long-term insurance that you will be following the ESG mandates of CSRD and the EU taxonomy. And so yeah, it will take some cost up front, but you will gain in creating a new image for your company as an ESG leader, and also you will mitigate any risks or penalties that you may be facing.
Hi, I'm Axel. We're the business team part, and we're gonna give a brief explanation about our innovation ideas. So the first one we want to imply is gonna be the ESG verified supply chain. What we're trying to seek with this, it's gonna be this is gonna mean that establishing in the supply chain our compliance with the ESG standards, we're gonna find through third-party audits. So with this, what we mean is that our products are gonna be coming from certified but also ethical sources. But not only this, with this, why is it gonna be innovative? It's gonna be enhancing the transparency, but also the accountability in this case. And it's gonna be complying with the ESG. It's gonna be complying with ESG in the sense that it's gonna be meeting the CSRD requirements when it comes to the supply chain. So we can give a better diligence and also risk assessment with this one. Then coming into the employee and ESG training programs, what we're trying to do here is gonna be developing, but also developing and creating comprehensive training modules, which we're gonna be educating our core. In this case, our core is gonna be our team. So this is gonna be pretty important because the ESG principles and the practices are gonna be our main thing to get to the customer, but also complying with our team. Because like this, we can empower the staff to contribute with all the sustainability goals. But not only this, also the culture part, it's super important. So in this case, we're gonna be addressing more into the social part in the ESG reporting relevance. But thanks to this, we can create better engagement when it comes to our customer, but also with our suppliers. Now, coming to the last point we want to treat is gonna be the digital ESG data dashboard for stakeholders. In this case, what we're trying to seek is gonna be this interactive online platform that we're gonna be having, and we're gonna put some indicators and metrics for the ESG. We can see the carbon footprint, also the energy consumption, and also how our materials are gonna be used in the recyclable way. In this case, we're gonna be enhancing with transparency, but also this is gonna be helping us in the sense that all our information is gonna be public. So by this, we're gonna be complying with ESG, and not only we're gonna be doing it with stakeholders, but also with our customers. So in this case, it's gonna be also facilitating the compliance with the CSRD emphasis. So in this case, we're trying to do it the transparent and in an accessible and sustainable reporting. So like this, we want to try to implement it to the business game by the ideas from the legal, from the other team, from the legal team. And that will be it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, I would like to remind everyone here, also during the presentation, this is also an exam. So please have respect for the students who are presenting here. In fact, since it is an exam, I will also like to ask a question. If you think about the principal agent problem in general, how is that kind of connected to the issues that you mentioned here today, especially talking about the company's value? How would you see the principal agent problem here affecting the issue of assessing a company's value?
Which principle? Can you please repeat that?
The principal agent problem. Agent. The principal agent problem is that, you know, as a stockholder, an owner of the company, you have to engage people who are working for you. So basically, the management of the company. And the interest of the two parties is, generally speaking, different. The management of a company has a different interest than the owners of the company. You mentioned the owners. Obviously, they're interested in an increase in shareholder value or an increase of a company value. A manager is more interested in his own pockets, in his own welfare. So how is that affecting, well, the ESG problems that you mentioned here?
As you said, the shareholders usually want to raise the price of their stock, and usually the management, since it is paid by the shareholders, the board, it tends to follow the interest of the board, and that sometimes can be a problem because, well, in the ESG case, there can be many problems. During this, when I did the research, I realized that ESG is a big thing for millennials, but for older generations, it's not that important. And a lot of the boards of companies can be a higher age, so they don't seem to care that much. And like if you think,
are you really sure about that? If you consider the last election in Germany, for example, I would say it's probably the contrary. The young generation doesn't care, but the older one does.
I don't know. The research I found, was,
no, okay.
During my studies, I found that the millennials are the ones that, I'm not sure about Germany, but usually the newer generations are the ones that try to protest and do something about the impact that the companies or the government has from an ESG point of view. And as I said, it can cause a lot of problems because CEOs usually tend to follow what the shareholders want. And sometimes, as I said, shareholders can be not that interested. Usually they are, but some companies don't. And there's another problem that sometimes the investors want to see the numbers go high as fast as possible, which means that in the ESG case, if you want to move towards the ESG, as Gabriel said, there needs to be a lot of investments in the short term at least. But a lot of investors, when they see these numbers, they get scared and they try to invest. And this is a risky action for the CEO because he wants to stay the CEO and he wants to make the shareholders happy. So it kind of pushes away from the ESG. At least that's what I think. There is a lot of conflict. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
So just to interject here, I think from a data-driven perspective, you're just giving more information to all of the interested parties. And so that information should give you more value in the setting of the principal agent. So both people can have shared information and make better decisions.
Yes, my question is, you suggested as a neutral option for Chouette company to use neutral and vague words like eco-friendly or something like that. But if that company is obligated under ESG reporting, do you think it's still possible to use those vague terms, or isn't that a high-risk action, since the new law tries to motivate the companies to be much more specific regarding those terms? What is your point of view on that topic?
I think that the company will meet few ESG standards. I mean, she will do something, but just a few things. So she can, so the company can use these phrases like eco-conscious and striving for sustainability, and not get attacked. But in substance, she won't do real anything for ESG.
But when you see what the European Union taxonomy is demanding, that is much more specific, right? So how can you use those vague terms, or do you have to give numbers or things like that?
I mean, in that sense, like, yeah, as we can see also for 2026, we're gonna see a new regulation when it comes to ESG. So in this case, I would say that the best option, it could be like, maybe these terms itself cannot be totally used, but they need to be complying to every company. Also, like talking in this with the legal framework and our ideas, I think that also it's complicated when it comes in the sense of money. Also because as we can see in Europe, we have, well, in Europe in general, most of the companies, yeah, is a really small percentage when it comes to big firms such as Deutsche Bank or here in Credit Banca. But I think the main focus here, it will be more into the medium enterprises, as we can see, because also I feel like, and also based in another project I'm doing aside of this, we can see most of these companies are sustaining, and also in the perspective in Germany, it's also costly. So we need, in this case, to make something that is also affordable for these small companies to be complying, because we can go to the big players, obviously. But if we only focus on the big players, it's not gonna be worth it, because, yeah, okay, they're gonna be producing a lot more, but also we gotta focus on this small companies, on also micro, like give more information to them. Although the regulations cannot be applied the same, because we're not going to be dealing with the same size, and they're not going to be having the same liquidity, or also when it comes into the finance part, it's not going to be the same. But I feel like if there's like a compliance with the three of them, like micro, small, medium, and big enterprises, we can search for alternatives to make like big nomenclature also with this new taxonomy that's going to be coming in 2026.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
No, I just have a consideration that usually, so the idea we have, especially if we focus on EU Legals Act, is that the attention to the to sustainability issues is more a matter related to big companies. But according to your considerations, the final idea I got, and I totally agree with it, is also that also for small and medium-sized enterprises, it is something that really matters, even though we don't have right now a strict regulation. Also, so you were emphasizing, for instance, the reputational risks, and just this one is something that you, in your business game, could consider a lot, I think. So thank you very much.